Thank you all for coming. This is if we can reach just one. Title came from one of the mothers here. We've been doing this program for a while now. We've went to a few towns, Hibbing, Cass Lake, Bemidji State University, and planning on going other places as soon as we figure out where we're going. But this program here is to spread suicide awareness. It's these amazing people here are going to tell you stories about their life that some of it's a success and some of it's in progress still. I will tell you that just turning 56 years old 2 weeks ago, it took me almost 50 years before I could wake up in the morning and say I wanted to live. But there ain't nothing more I want to do anymore. I want to live. I've gotten all sorts of texts from some people in other counties and stuff that want us to get involved with their counties, which is really exciting to get more involved and get the suicide awareness spread out even further. I'm really excited about that. In July, it'll be 7 years I've started this, and my dream is coming true to help as many people as I possibly can. A little bit about myself. I have struggled with suicide since I was 9. I've attempted 19 times. And I could tell you the ways, and it doesn't matter. I struggled, and I had a lot of pain. And the only way I thought possible to get rid of that pain was to end my life. And until I met Kiesler, Northland, and my beautiful wife, Nicole, here, and the Kiesler family, I honestly didn't think there was anything worth living for. And now I have everything to live for. And I get up every day. I know I sound sick and everything, but I want to go to work every day. I want to see everybody at work. I lost a close friend to suicide recently, and it hurts bad. I told my wife that maybe what I'm doing isn't really helping anybody. But the awesome thing about my wife is she gets right in my face. And she tells me it is worth it. And I spin right out of it now. She's like my angel. She's amazing. I know for a fact that everything that I've accomplished and everything that I've accomplished with all these people here is helping people out there. I have a LAZA group at the Kiesler Wellness Center that's for people, and it stands for Life After Suicide Attempt Group, and it's for people that struggle with suicide every day. Knock on wood, I've never lost any of them. Am I saying that I have the answer? No. I'm saying that it helps. It helps being in groups. It helps talking to people that you can relate with. And I can tell you right now that it helps me. It helps me every day. We also have Suicide and Impact Left Behind group is on Wednesday night, 6 to 7:30. How many of you have lost somebody to suicide? That group right there is amazing. You guys should just come and try it one time. I'm not saying you got to stay. Just check it out. A lot of these people up here on this board are part of that group. And they become strong enough to share their stories with you. Like I said, I've struggled with suicide since I was 9. And I've had a lot of bad things happen to me when I was a child. But I have kids now. I got a little 4-year-old. Holy cow. She's something special. She's driving me something special too. But I'm telling you right now, I thank God every day that I'm alive, because I love every day with that little girl. So, I could tell you a long story about myself, how I've been in institutions and seen lots of bad stuff, but that's not the message I want to give you guys. I want to give you guys the message that groups and being together and talking about stuff helps. I'm not saying that it fixes everything, and I'll never say that it fixes everything, but I also will say that I've seen miracles happen in that Wednesday night group. Mothers that come together and now they walk together and they go do stuff together, and they never knew each other before that group. And that's awesome. It's really awesome. I'm glad I started that group. By the way, that group turned 2 years old just about 3 weeks ago. And the LAZA group will be 7 years old in July. So if you guys are struggling, if you just need somebody to talk to, or this town has more counseling, more help, and more groups than anywhere around here. Just reach out for help. There's help everywhere in this town. I appreciate all the people that came, North Holmes and NAMI and all them guys that came today, and Northland, and these guys. I'm glad Joe came. Joe's a pretty cool guy. Joe's been helping us out with the Walk for Life and the fishing tournament, which is March 5th. If you guys want to join us, all that goes to suicide awareness. So it'd be awesome to see all you guys there. Registration is at Kiesler, so if you guys want to join us fishing, hopefully there's ice. Otherwise, we'll be all sitting on shore staring at the lake. But I think wife's tired of listening to me. I can see that. Anyway, thank you so much for coming. Here's Nicole to show you some statistics about just Minnesota area, and then at the end she'll show you the area around here. So thank you.
So we do have a trigger warning for everybody coming up with some of the statistics as well as the stories that you will hear. So with the statistics that I do have, they always come out later in the year, and they're always about a year or two behind, just with the way that they collect the data and what they have to go through to get that data. So for this, I still have the 2021 data. So in 2021, 48,183 people died by suicide in the United States. So that's one death every 11 minutes. So then it goes on to, 12.3 million adults seriously thought about suicide, 3.5 million adults made a plan, and 1.7 million adults attempted suicide. This slide shows a lot of ages and ethnicities, male versus female, throughout the years. On this, it does go down. I'm going to jump down to the ages. It only goes 10 years of age to 24 for that younger age group. But in 2016, in Minnesota, the youngest person to die by suicide was 6. In Minneapolis. So veterans are at a 57% higher risk of suicide than those that have not served. So to get a better picture of the battle that they fight, that is, there were 6,146 veterans who died by suicide in 2020. 20 veterans, or 20 years of consecutive, let me try that again. There were 20 consecutive years with 6,000 plus veteran suicides. 125,000 veterans have died by suicide since 2001, and it is the second leading cause of death by veterans under the age of 45. So up next, we do have some stories, and I will come back later with more statistics of the closer Itasca County area. We have Sharon first.
Hi. Hi. My name is Sharon, and I lost my beautiful and only daughter, Lauren, to suicide December 12th of 2021, after a many years long struggle with depression and PTSD. Lauren was a mother, a daughter, a sister, an auntie, a sister-in-law, a cousin, a niece, a friend, a soldier, and a fiance. She was all of those things and so much more, and we all miss her every single day. She is the first thing I think about every morning. She is the last thing I think about every night. And she fills most of my nightly dreams. I still don't go a day without tears, and the hole in my heart is still raw and open and has a constant ache. I've been told by others who have gone further down the path of grief that the pain only dulls a bit with time, but it never truly ends. Lauren left a 4-year-old daughter. I had to be the one to tell her that mommy had died. I sent a text to nearly everyone on my contact list that she had died and to please pray. And I believe that is the only way I had the words and the strength to tell a precious 4-year-old that her mommy was never coming home. What a horrible night that was. Christmas for us will never be the same. I still find myself picking up things at the store I know she'd love, or turning around to see her when I smell a certain scent. I remember her when I when I hear certain songs, or when I cook certain foods. I will reread her cards and letters just to see her handwriting or perhaps feel her energy. I relive her birth in my mind, our only daughter. Oh, how surprised and over the moon thrilled we were. And watching her grow was such a joy. I know her father and each of her 5 brothers miss her dearly as well. I see pain in their eyes when someone mentions her name. One of her brothers even wrote a song to express his grief, and he titled it "My Friend." In the chorus he writes, "I'm still missing my friend." Since she was a little girl, Lauren wanted to be a mom. She was so thrilled to welcome her daughter in 2017. Her beautiful little girl is now a 6-year-old kindergartner. She loves rocks as much as her mama did. We rejoice in watching her grow up and seeing her mom through her. When we look at her, we see mommy's eyes. Lauren is missing out on so much. I long to feel her again. Lauren gave such wonderful hugs, and she would smother my face with little kisses when she said goodbye. She would giggle when she hugged me. Sometimes her little girl tells me, "Grandma, Mama is here with us right now." But I can't feel her through my tremendous pain. Lauren often told people that she wouldn't be missed, that we'd all be better off without her, that there would only be 2 people at her funeral. Well, that funeral home was so packed that people had to be turned away. There were dozens of flowers and plants. This was a loved woman, but she couldn't see that through her tremendous pain. Lauren was engaged, but she was extremely hesitant about actually getting married. She said she wasn't worthy. She wouldn't be a good wife. He said, "I love you just the way you are." But she couldn't hear him through her tremendous pain. My heart shatters when I hear she felt that way, but I've since learned that's what depression and mental illness do to a person. The morning after I told her little girl that Mommy had died, she told us that Mommy had come to cuddle her during the night, and Lauren told her, "I'm not hurting anymore." My logical self knows it's not my fault, but my mama bear self still feels like I failed her. Moms are the fixers, the owie healers, the boo-boo kissers. They fight off the prey. Moms can fix anything. But my hands were completely tied when it came to mental illness. She tried so hard to get help. She went to numerous clinics and treatment centers, inpatient, outpatient, drugs and meds, then take them away. New drugs, more drugs, take away, start over. The ridiculous roller coaster she was put on. Finally, she traveled to Texas to a facility that only treats vets dealing with PTSD. She felt she was finally making progress there. She finally had hope after so many times asking for help. But she was forced to leave there when they decided the allotted time was up. She was dead less than 6 months later. My beautiful girl was gone. I know that she's now finally at peace, and that brings me some comfort. And as desperately as I miss her, I wouldn't wish her back here for even 1 more hour if she'd be in that same agony as when she left us. But I also know that I will never truly be at peace until I reunite with her again in heaven. Thank you.
I'm a little short. My name is Kathy Kessel, and this is my suicidal loss story. My story begins on December 25th, 1971. My mother had 3 children. I was 3, my brother was 4, and my sister, the oldest, was 5. We were at my grandmother's house celebrating Christmas together. The family received word that my mom's youngest brother died in a hunting accident. I was too young to remember him, but many memories of him were shared with me. We 3 kids were told that he went out hunting for a Christmas goose or pheasant, and the gun accidentally went off. My mom was a good mom. She made holidays and birthdays special. She was a good listener, and she did the best she could for us kids. She had an unhappy marriage with my long-term alcoholic father. He worked nights and was rarely present, and we as teenagers much preferred it that way. We all grew up and left home. Mom started sleeping more and more. One day I was called up by my sister and my dad that my mom was suicide talking and that I needed to go talk with her. By this time in my life, I had had my first daughter, Cassie. She was 3 years old at the time. I met with my mother, and during that conversation, it was revealed that it was time that my mom needed to leave my dad. Now my mom had her own place, but she also had a lot more expenses, but she also lived much closer to me and to Cassie, which made her happier. She worked a full-time as well as a part-time job, and she also watched Cassie for me on Tuesdays after school. Their time they spent together, they grew very close, and they remained close. Cassie was the first grandchild. With the stress of her jobs, money, learning a new computer system, her aging mother, and a new boss, my mom began to sleep even more. If you were able to reach her by phone, she was often groggy and very quiet. She started to turn down invites to join us for family outings, something she never used to do. By this time in my life, my second daughter was born. When my dad's many years of alcohol abuse caught up to him and he was getting more and more ill, something had to be done. The last time I saw my mother was at a family reunion. She just snapped at everybody, was very angry, and her coloring was gray. She was not dealing well with my father's ailing health. The next day, my sister and I found a nursing home for my dad, which made my mother very unhappy. On the phone with my sister, she yelled at my sister and told her that she's going to lose her 401k, and she hung up on her. My mother then went to get my father at my dad's brother's home, where my dad had been staying since the family reunion. After having words with my aunt, my mom threatened suicide to her. My aunt countered with, "Go right ahead. We've heard you say that before." My mother went home and overdosed. We found out 2 days later when my mom's work called my sister because mom hadn't shown up or called in for work. I was in the process of admitting my dad into the nursing home while my 2 uncles took my sister to my mom's house to check on her. She was gone. We, my siblings and myself, went back to my aunt and uncle's house after getting this news. It was there that we overheard a cousin say, just like her brother, "This is how we finally learned the truth of our uncle's death. He died by suicide and not accidentally, as we were told." This finally explains some of my mom's moods and her depression. I wish we would have been told years before. Maybe we would have had a chance to better understand her and her struggles. I was 39 years old at the time. Cassie was 13, and her sister had just started kindergarten when my mom took her life. Cassie was so lost and devastated. She started acting out more and more, cutting on her arms, going through a goth phase. I started her in counseling. She liked the counselor, but her abusive alcoholic father interfered, and she wouldn't go anymore. This happened with many future therapists as well. After losing my mom in September of 2007, my father 3 months later, and my grandmother the following December, it was time finally for me to have the funds through my parents' estate to divorce my abusive husband. Due to the divorce, he put our 2 daughters through hell. It was all about punishing me and trying to make me so desperate that I have to go back to him. My poor babies. The girls did well in our own little apartment with lots of lifestyle changes. Cassie was the typical teenager, and I did the best I could for them. I reconnected with my high school sweetheart a year or so later, and the girls and I moved to another city to live with him. The girls thought of him as their dad, and they grew close. The girls made new friends and adapted to new schools. Cassie was doing much better at this time. At the new school, we arranged for a new counselor for her. This one, her dad couldn't interfere with. She liked this therapist, so they talked about her future, and it was decided she would go to Mankato University. Cassie went through her first real breakup that senior year of high school, and she skipped school that day. I couldn't find her. When she finally returned home, she said she tried to find the cemetery where my mom is buried in Wisconsin. When she couldn't figure that out, she drove to Fort Snelling where my father is buried. For some reason, her sadness drew her to want to be near them. She left for college, and while there, she met her next love. We adored him. He was part of our family. They lived together her senior year of college. Cassie worked very hard at college. She also worked 2-3 part-time jobs. Her senior year towards graduation, this relationship started to fail badly. Once again, Cassie was devastated. She moved home a couple months later, but at that time, her stepdad, little sister, and myself were moving up here to northern Minnesota. The next 18 months were very hard for her. She worked a very stressful job. She was having some friends issues. She was having relationships issues with a new boyfriend. Memorial weekend of 2018, Cassie failed to join us at the camper. This was our tradition. I couldn't reach her. We didn't hear from her. I was hysterically panicked. We finally found out she had been taken by ambulance to the hospital. I drove down to the cities and visited her in the hospital, and we talked a long time, and we swore openness to each other no matter what. She said she was doing better. In February of 2019, we took a mother-daughter trip to Florida, and we had an amazing time. Cassie and I grew very close. Over the next few months, Cassie became harder and harder to reach. She complained of having migraine headaches when I questioned her about her weird sleeping and awake hours. She also complained about her anxiety and her struggles to find just the right meds. Some made her worse, some didn't help, some made her feel sick. She was seeing a new therapist that she liked. That winter, she sent me a text that she was so happy. She said she was finally starting to feel a little more like herself. Then COVID hit. Cassie worked from home and spent a lot more time alone. She was able to come up north for a couple days over Memorial weekend. We had a really good time as a family. A couple weeks later, we started going down to the cities to get that house ready to sell. We went down the next 2 weekends in a row. We needed to sell the house for financial reasons, but Cassie needed a new place to stay. She had lived in the house since we had moved up north. Cassie really didn't have anywhere to go, and it was finally decided she would move in with my sister. This was a very stressful decision for her. The second weekend that we were down, she was not acting like herself. We got into an argument on Sunday. Cassie and I never really fought her entire life. She had become one of my very best friends, and we got along amazingly. I thought that we told each other everything. After the argument, we finally made up, and the three of us went back up north to return to work. Cassie's stepdad was coming back down to the house on Tuesday for a new carpet install. Cassie and I texted a little bit on Monday, but she said she had a lot of work to still do that night, so I let her be. Tuesday, when her stepdad arrived at the house, he found Cassie in the bathroom. She had died of an overdose. My girl was gone. I missed the signs. I didn't get her help. I failed her. The next day when I arrived in the cities, I had her phone, and I started to give her friends the news. While I was doing so, Cassie's phone received notification that her anxiety and depression med refills were finally ready. She had been out of her meds for over 2 weeks. There was a shortage of mental health medication due to COVID. My mother never fully recovered from her brother's suicide. Cassie never recovered from her grandmother's suicide. And her little sister now struggles with PTSD, anxiety, and depression, and is also medicated due to the effects from her sister's suicide. She has been in inpatient care twice, but at least for now, she has reached out to me for help. Losing a loved one to suicide changes your world. I will never be the same person I was 16 years ago. The pain is as raw and is as deep as you can imagine. The pain your loved ones were in before ending their life transfers to their survivors, who are desperately mourning this tremendous loss. My daughter and my mother both had convinced themselves that we would be so much better off without them, that our lives would go back to normal. They were both so very wrong. The first year I struggled with my heartbreak all alone. I couldn't imagine another person in the world who could know and understand what I was going through. Then I saw a posting in the Community Ed book for the startup of a Suicide and Impact Left Behind group. I came to the very first meeting, and I've been coming ever since. I am no longer alone on my grief journey. I do not want one more parent, daughter, sister, son, friend, loved one to know what this feels like. If I can reach just one, help just one, save just one. Thank you.
Jesus. Excuse me if I cry a lot. I'm very emotional. And it's because I lost a friend this past couple weeks. But here's my story. Hi, my name is Sherry. I'm someone that lived both sides of the coin. I felt the moment when life slips away to return, and the moment that life was gone to live with the loss. I grew up in a household with parents and 3 brothers. I was the oldest and only girl. I grew up with a lot of physical, emotional, mental, and sexual abuse. Most of my family had substance use disorders. The only real sanctuary I ever had was out in nature, as I found it to be a safe place outside of my home and school. This is when I came to a crossroad in my life and became born again through life would be great. Well, no one seemed to help me on that journey except for my faith. But I did not know what that meant to me, to be honest. I just held on to a faith that no matter what, I was not alone. And it did save me through my journey, even though I wanted to end my life many times. Then when I was 15 years old, I was sexually assaulted, became pregnant, and had a miscarriage. I cannot say what happened during that time period of 5 months. I think that was a moment when my dissociate disorder kicked in because everything was hushed and put away. In 1987, I met my first husband, handsome man from a good Christian family, hard worker, just everything I could dream of. We had 3 boys together, bought a house, had a good-looking family, went out in public. Inside was a different story. If I thought growing up was bad as a child, I was starting adulthood in a worse nightmare. The man I loved and wanted to spend the rest of my life with was abusing me on a daily basis. And one day I found my way to escape and run. It was a point in my life when I knew he was either going to end my life before he would get better. This is where my greatest heartbreak happened. I had to leave my 3 boys behind. It killed me. This is when my idolation of wanting to end my life had started the most. My life changed. At this time, I could not see how it was going to get better. Then I remarried and had my first little girl. But I brought all my pain with me and became someone I did not like anymore. For I had so many masks to hide my pain. I didn't know who I was anymore. I did things that never felt good. I believed the lies that was told to me for so long. I couldn't dissociate what was real or not real with who I was. I felt so bad inside myself that I used anything to try to drown the pain. I believed filling my void within myself would fix everything, but nothing could fill the void no matter how hard I tried. I was in and out of institutions, moving place to place. I still couldn't find freedom from my past, for all I did was accuse it for my present circumstances. I hated what they did to me, and I hated myself even more. Then came the day I was looking for an easy way out. I could never bring myself to actually feel physical pain. I just wanted to go away peacefully. The only moment I remember is when I was slipping away and then the fight for survival. To be honest, right now, I believe it was the most selfish thing I could ever want to do. I had no thought about anyone or anything around me. I didn't even think about what kind of devastation I would cause to the people that I loved, that loved me. I believed they would be better off without me. I didn't even write a note. I just wanted my pain to go away. My brother found me collapsed on the floor, to his knowledge at that moment. I just had a bad substance abuse reaction. I went to bed as nothing had happened that night. I thought it was better that way, for I was used to hiding what was really going on. This is when I decided to get help with my substance use disorder, for I thought it was my only problem. I didn't want to admit I had any mental health disorders at this time. I started to go to meetings, and this is when I met my second love. I had a great job, things were looking up, then I found out he was using. I was devastated for every weekend he would leave. I never knew if one day it would take his life. For 9 months I lived this way. I asked him to stop using or leave. He left. I lived in the hopes he would come back. I talked to his family a lot, keeping in contact. Then I got the phone call. He took his life. I didn't know if I was more angry at him for succeeding or leaving me. I cried a long time. I blamed myself for his death. I thought if I never asked him to choose me or drugs, he would still be alive today. I couldn't forgive myself for this. I started slowly back to numbing the pain again, and I quit recovery. I told myself I didn't need help anymore, nor did I want it. I just wanted to blame everyone and everything else instead of taking responsibility for me. Again, I was in and out of recovery for substance abuse and still had no level of comprehension of my mental health disorders. Then I got pregnant with my second daughter. I was actually devastated at first, but I still went through the pregnancy without the father due to him having his own plans in life. I stopped my substance abuse and really concentrated on recovery and raising my daughter. Then I moved back home to the place it all started. This is when my mental health disorders kicked in full blast. I had resorted back to my old habits of avoiding and medicating my problems as if they didn't exist. Then in 2013, I found my way out of New Jersey in hopes to start a new life with my daughter. Unfortunately, I came here in another abusive relationship that turned our lives upside down. We moved through shelters and finally made it on our own once again. My daughter was struggling with school, being bullied, self-harming herself and numbing her pain. At this point, I started numbing my own pain again, for I didn't want to deal with anything that was going on. I'd already started therapy for my daughter for self-harming herself. Then one day, a therapist came to my house to give me devastating news that something happened to my daughter. She was sexually assaulted. This was my first realization that I could not help her. I haven't even helped myself. How was I going to help her? This is the moment I made my first real conscious decision to take responsibility for my life and to get help for my daughter. At this time, I couldn't help my daughter off the streets, and they could not find a bed for her fast enough. I made my mind up and took drastic measures because they did not deem me an unfit mother at this point. They could not help her fast. That is what they told me at social services. So I turned myself in for substance abuse and mental disabled to take care of my daughter so they would get help. And I would know that she was safe. Everything that I did that week, I did so my daughter would be in a safe place so I can concentrate on my recovery and she could work out her own trauma. I spent 18 months in rehab for dual diagnosis, mental health disorders, and substance abuse disorder. What was different this time? I wanted to take responsibility for my life, regardless of the circumstances of my life. I went through 3 recovery facilities, all focused on this. I did everything, even if it didn't feel good. I had to start over a lot, but I never gave up on me and finding out who I am. I was doing this for me, and I made this promise to myself, no matter what happens from this day forward, I would not give up on me. The day came that my daughter didn't want to come home. At first I was devastated, but then came the acceptance that I had to let my daughter make an important decision for her own recovery. I learned that for myself, taking responsibility for my life, as hard as it was to let her go, I was confident that it was not going to let me take me off my path of recovery. I worked hard to get where I am today. I found freedom in knowing I made my own decisions and choices in recovery, and I do not let my past dictate who I am or where I am going. If you take anything out of this message, just know you never have to do this alone. There are people in this room right now that can help and understand your pain, whether you're wanting to hurt yourself or the loss of a loved one. We have had different experiences in life, but we all know the pain. Today I'm living in recovery, and I work as a peer support at Keesler Wellness Center, helping others learn recovery through hope, learning there's a better future through someone else's recovery experience, choice. You become the expert in your recovery and how you receive help and by whom. Empowerment. This is your recovery to self-advocate for yourself. Recovery environment, a healthy recovery place to nurture healthy relationships. And spirituality, to nurture love and explore what that means to you. These are powerful recovery pathways. You can learn to help you on your journey. They give you the power to find out who you are, what you want to do, and to move forward to a better future, knowing you're never alone. Will it be easy? No. It's going to take work, and you might have to start over and over and over again, many times. Just know it's okay. Brush yourself off and start over again. If you or anyone you know is struggling with suicide or the loss of someone to suicide, know that there are supports here to help you, and we also want to bring these supports to your own community. Thank you for letting me share a piece of my story with you.
I'm Les Bohannon. A lot of you know me. You know I'm a veteran. 9-year U.S. Navy. The old saying, there's things you can't unsee, that is so true. I'm living proof of it. I watched my best friend commit suicide right in front of me. Him and I grew up together. And that's one of the reasons why I went Special Forces. I was hoping to get shot down so I could be with my father. There's a lot that happened in my life that I thought I could drink it away, and it didn't. Never worked out that way. Nightmares still occur. There's some I can't get rid of. It took my wife and my now best friend many years, and then my best friend brought me into the Keesler Wellness Center for a pool tournament, and I've never left. And these guys welcomed me with open arms. I never had that before. I never had that feeling. And a lot of these guys had no idea what I went through, and they didn't care. It took me a long time to not think about suicide. And it's still in the back of my mind to this day. Nightmares are still there. They're few and frequent, but they're still there. And like an example, a show of hands, how many of you remember the very first time you ever got on a roller coaster? How scared and excited you were? Multiply that times 1,000 every time we took off of an aircraft carrier. And it's scary. You never know what was coming around that horizon. I still have nightmares of flying. I still love to fly, don't get me wrong. If I had a chance to do it again, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But I've been struggling with suicide for a very long time. I haven't been lately. Since I became sober, you know, I'm a father, I'm an archery coach, a tracker with the Retrievers Lost Dog Team, which is something I love to do. And I know I don't know where I'd be without these guys. You know, Mac has been my peer support for how long now, Mac? But I tried getting help before, and the therapist I went to see, all he wanted to do is get me to quit smoking. He didn't really care about me, about how I felt, and I thought all therapists were going to be like that, so I didn't bother. But then I met my Keesler family, and I'm proud to call them family. I've never been more proud in my life. Except the day I went in the military. I don't know who was more excited about me flying, me or my father. My dad flew during the Korean War. It has a way of changing a person. Doesn't matter what your MOS is. During wartime, define normal. What I thought was normal was getting shot at every day. What I thought was normal was getting into an aerial dogfight every day. And then when they took that from me, I had nothing to do. I went home. All my friends had moved away. My dad was gone. I didn't think I had anything to live for. So I jumped off a bridge. I'm still here. You know, if I joined the Lazar group, what was that, about 4 or 5 years ago, Mike? Something like that?
Something like that.
And it's a great ride. You know, I love the people that I'm in it with. And then when we created the Suicide and Impact Left Behind, I joined instantly. Been there since day one. And then when Mike asked me one day if I wanted to speak and do this, in a heartbeat. If we can reach just one, that's great. I would love to reach many, but if we can reach one, I'm in. Thank you.
You'll have to excuse me, these lights are giving me hell on my headache. My name is Mac. I'm a peer support specialist for Northland Counseling, Keesler House. I'm also a man in recovery for the last 16 years. And I'll be in recovery for the rest of my life. And thanks to my Keesler family and the supports that I've received over the years, I'll have a very long life. I got to torture Mike for a few more years. My story starts, first time I tried to attempt suicide, I was 15. I was alone, didn't have anybody to talk to, dysfunctional family, mental, physical, sexual abuse in the family. At the age of 13, I was kicked out, so I was on my own. Locked up in juvenile a few times. My early or late teens, I guess, I was in prison. In 1981, October 30th, I got released, and I swore to God that I wasn't ever going back. That didn't stop the mayhem in my life. I went heavy into alcohol and drugs and used that as my hiding spot, my coping skill. In 2007, on my birthday, I woke up and I decided to celebrate my birthday. I jumped on the back of my old 72 and started at 10 o'clock that morning. 10 o'clock that night, a tree jumped out of the ditch and was in the middle of the road. For the next 3-4 days, I didn't know where I was at. And maybe it took that long for me to sober up or just come back to my senses. Another 8 months went by, I didn't sober up. I didn't have the will. I didn't care. And then I went homeless, and I ended up in our homeless shelter here in town. By the grace of God, a lady from Northland, she's retired now, was my guardian angel. She came and she said she could help me get there. But she always reassured me that somebody was there with me, and that was the first time in my life that I didn't feel alone. I was married and divorced 3 times, and I always felt alone. I could stand in a room of 1,000 people and I still felt alone. But until I met Northland, I met Keesler, they treated me with respect. And I guess that's what I've always searched for. They honored how I felt. Not in a bad way or a terrible way. They told me they understood, and I believed them, and I still do. And I'm going to take that with me for the rest of my life. Like most, or a few of us have said tonight, yes, we lost a dear friend. Another eye-opener, you know, we question our skills, but we know we have to continue on. And we do have good days and we have bad days. When I started this recovery thing, I didn't think it was going to be so hard. It's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. And when I say it's long term, it's because I know that's the only thing that's going to keep me alive. Like Mike, I was blessed. I'm now married for the 4th time to a very lovely lady, and she helps me a lot. She's my main support when I go home from work. When I leave the house, I have my Keesler family. I didn't lose anything by starting this job. I gained everything that I have today. And that many supports. And the ladies that I've met along this journey are wonderful. I feel your pain. But even though we feel pain, we look for success. That's our reward, is your success. A friend of mine came to me a week ago, struggling, suicidal. And I'm glad to say today he called me and told me he misses me. And he's in a safe place and making progress and feeling good about it. And that took a big team effort to get him there, because I seen myself in him years ago. And I wish I'd have known a lot of things way back in my teens that I know today. Maybe I'd be in a different place. But my spirituality, I have to have purpose. And if the good Lord wants me here, that's where I'm at. My grandfather used to say years ago, before he passed, it takes a community to raise a child. In my late 40s, I was that child. If you know someone or you're struggling yourself, and it doesn't matter with what, mental health, chemical dependency, anything, there's a lot of ears up here. And there's a lot of ears in our community. This is one of the best communities I've ever lived in my life. And I feel that that's why my higher power brought me here. And I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Love the weather. Joe better get the streets clean so we can get out and start doing some riding.
Hello, I'm Joe Dasovich, Sheriff of Itasca County, and the whole time I was sitting there I was wondering what I was going to say, because I've never told my story or spoke in public about my family. So 3 years ago, my brother Tim, a year younger than me, took his life by suicide. And the best way I could handle it was to just push it down and not let anyone talk about it. We had no warning signs, nothing. He just got a huge promotion at work. Everything seemed fine, and still to this day, we look back for answers and we're puzzled. Where I find purpose now, well, before I get too far ahead of myself, I realized that by me pushing it down and not letting anyone around me talk about it, it affected my 3 kids and my wife. So first things first, we had to have those tough conversations and move forward. And my family's in a better place because of it. And then I thought, you know, I've been a police officer for 15 years, and I couldn't even tell somebody that came to me all the resources that Itasca County has. So little by little, I started gathering information. I ran for sheriff, and I met all the individuals from Keesler when I was out campaigning, and I saw how great of an organization it was. And from there, I built on relationships with First Call and NAMI, and now I made it a point where my deputies are trained for suicide intervention. We got a grant through Itasca County Health and Human Services, and we have our departmental meetings at different organizations around the county, and I can proudly say that every deputy could tell you every resource when they get sent to a call when somebody's having, you know, thoughts to where they need help. So that's kind of one of the things that through my struggles I've managed to find purpose in. And I don't know, I can say that even talking about them right now, I can feel I should probably quit and go sit down. I mean, but honestly, if there is anything that anyone watching this or anything anyone needs, call 911, 988, First Call for help, anything. We will get you the resources you need. And then hopefully, my goal is that we reach more than one, but it will never quit being my goal.
All right, so more statistics for everybody. So after a brief dip during the pandemic in 2020, the rate of suicide in Minnesota rose in 2021 and in 2022. So there were 808 people who died by suicide in 2021 and then 835 in 2022, according to the final and preliminary data. So this next slide shows more.
See everybody take pictures of the board. Maybe you should tell them that they're out there on the table.
Oh, so we do have these slides printed out, and they are available at the front at the Northland table that is out there in case you guys want them. If you want me to slow down, let me know and you can take pictures also. So this shows suicide in Itasca County from 1994 to 2021. So Arbo Township had 1 person die by suicide. I'm going to jump around a little bit. Grand Rapids had 84 people die by suicide. You know, Swan River had 1 person. Orva had 3. I mean, these are, you know, people's children, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles. I mean, these numbers that you see, they're not just numbers, they're family. So this one is specifically for Itasca County in 2021. So Big Fork had 2 people, Coleraine 1, Deer River had 1, Grand Rapids had 7, Marcel had 2, and Morva had 1. So the next slides I did get from NAMI. So although more women than men attempt suicide. Men are 4 times more likely to die by suicide. And then transgender adults are nearly 9 times more likely to attempt suicide at some point in their life compared to the general population. 46% of people who die by suicide had a diagnosed mental health condition, but research suggests that 90% may have experienced symptoms of a mental health condition, so just undiagnosed. So the highest rates of suicide in the United States are among the American Indian / Alaskan Natives, followed by non-Hispanic white people. And then 97% of all people who die by suicide are males. So the next slide is just where I got some of the information. Then our thank you. And then if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask those, whether it's to me, to any of the speakers. We are more than happy to answer any questions you guys have. Just raise your hand, spit it out, doesn't matter.
What? No question?
Yes.
Question, but I have a comment. I just want to thank all of you for your bravery in sharing your story. I know it's not easy, but I am appreciative and thankful for all of you.
Thank you.
Those of you guys that don't know, there's flyers for all the groups and Northland stuff and North Homes and all that stuff is right outside if you did not see it. We would appreciate it if you guys would take some of that stuff, then I don't have to carry it home. That'd be awesome. Thank you guys all for coming.